Hi, Ashley. Welcome to the NSYNC show. I appreciate you spending a few minutes with us. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from?
Sure. My name is Ashley Moneypenny, and I'm the conference planning manager with Benchmark Hospitality at Wingspread Retreat Executive Conference Center.
Fantastic. Hey, I reached out to see if we can have a little bit of discussions on new trends in meeting technology. And you had some really interesting things, and I was hoping that you could probably share a few of those with us. What are some of these new trends anyways?
Absolutely. So one thing that I've noticed that when we were all thrown into a dynamic situation of the pandemic, and we thought that hybrid was going to go away, we wouldn't have to do video conferencing anymore. I believe it's here to stay, and it definitely adds another layer onto your meeting. It gives you the opportunity to have guest speakers from across the country, and definitely just enhances and makes it more engaging experience.
Interesting. So before this event that happened, we all affectionately, I try to avoid the word altogether these days.
Right.
Was hybrid even part of a consideration prior to this, or can you share a little bit about that?
I think it was to those who worked remotely, and that was normal to it was what they did. And then it felt like the rest of the world was like, oh, have you heard about this platform? Oh yeah, I've been using that for probably ever. So I think everybody else just caught up essentially.
Right.
And but I don't think it was integrated as much as it could have been.
So I'm assuming that there's through the hybrid. Have you seen a benefit? Have there been drawbacks? Can you share a little bit about both of those?
Yeah, I think looking at it from an engaging aspect, you can definitely, like I said, have guest speakers come. And I think that also can financially help groups, because then if you're not paying for their travel or their lodging, it kind of helps your budget a little bit. I also think that it helps with, that's my train of thought. It also helps with,
that's okay. No problem.
No, that's my train of thought.
Yeah. Now, do you see, is the makeup of the meetings different? Like key stakeholders versus, typically it would be a large, I'm assuming the events are smaller, but maybe that's a misconception.
I think what most meetings, they strive to have the I don't want to say the important people, the key stakeholders, the decision makers in person. And then if the other surrounding team can't make it or aren't comfortable coming, then they can Zoom or whatever platform, video conference them in. So I think it's kind of half and half, but I've also seen it go the other way too.
Gotcha. Now, is the experience on an online different than those in person? And you had mentioned just earlier about some of Elon Musk and maybe some of the other. If you can go ahead and share some of that would be fantastic.
Yeah, so there are some extreme new trends of one-off situations that I think, as I said, if you're Elon Musk and you're having a meeting and you have a hologram in the middle of the table and you have that technology, that's really great and even more engaging and attention getting, and makes people want to come to the meetings because they know that there's this experience to be had. Or the virtual reality that people are using to integrate into their meetings now, I think is also, it has the same effect. So,
I had one of my last interviews I had, we talked about one of the properties that we have is they have actually clay shooting as a team building event. Do you see, all the rage has been technology, but do you also see a demand or interest in things like obviously beekeeping, some other type of events that aren't necessarily technology?
I have actually seen, in some cases, less technology being used as a new trend because people want to reconnect. They finally are at a place where they feel comfortable being in person and they want to do team building. They want to collaborate. They want to just reunite their teams. And so, yeah, there's some, like you said, technology-based team building like Kahoot that you can do, but really getting them to do a tapas challenge together and cook together. And you learn things that you can't learn through a screen.
Absolutely.
It's very dynamic.
Yeah. And that's very encouraging to hear, because I don't want to date myself, but I've experienced on both sides of the fence. In fact, before I started my marketing career, it was before computers. And, I see this tendency now of technology's here. Let's go all in on technology. And then there's a lot of things, because we've lost that human connection. And I see the pendulum swinging back. In fact, I also see, even a thirst for more, like you'd mentioned, the demand, or even the conversation going away from technology.
And I've even seen some groups that they integrate their video conferencing participants into their team building activity that everybody in the room is doing. So whether it's an icebreaker and they get the questions ahead of time, so it can keep it inclusive to everybody and not feel like, well, since you're not in the room, then you don't get to participate. So,
right.
Yeah.
I just thought about an interesting dynamic. Imagine if you had a GoPro on your head and you were doing maybe it was a relay race of some sort, and you were actually a wearable on that body, and you were viewing it from I just kind of, my wacky ideas, I kind of just thought about that. But yeah, it's so, what are some of the most common, or is there been a commonality, things that have been asking you about in terms of different events or thinking outside the box, so to speak?
Yeah, so sometimes in a venue, if with having to distance people, then you have to say, okay, so you have your main room, and then if you have breakout spaces available to put space to space people out and make people comfortable, and then video conferencing to that main room. So essentially you are live streaming to those other rooms. So you're still getting the people at the table that you want there, they're comfortable, and they're getting the information that's needed. It's a win-win, but you just have to be creative and have staff that's essential in hooking everything up. But
right. No, absolutely. Yeah, great. So moving forward, as we begin to get back together and get our teams back on the field, so to speak, what should meeting planners look for in a venue, and even in a staff or a team?
Great question. So it's different, because venues can go anywhere from you having to bring all of your own equipment. So a lot of companies are investing in buying owl cams and or Vibes, which is another camera system that they bring with them, and they supply the staff that they have confident employees that can execute using these using the equipment. There are some venues that are fully, have all of the good stuff that you literally can walk in. They have confident staff. That's the premier venue that you would love to have. You don't have to rent anything. There's no added, you just show up and they help execute everything that you need. So I would say that's definitely number one, but I know that's not always the case. So making sure that you bring confident staff with you is definitely key.
Nice. Fantastic. So what would be a takeaway or an Ashley's secret sauce you could share with us?
In all my years of doing convenings and convening people, I think that it's essential to make sure that you have the right people at the right time at the right place. Then you're having an impactful meeting that isn't that could have been an email, right? We've all been to those meetings, but you want to make sure it's impactful and that you're accomplishing your outcomes. And that really should be your main focus, is getting the right people at the right time at the right place.
Yeah, and I love the word outcomes. In fact, I've been using that a lot this last couple of weeks. And from a marketer, so many times we check off the boxes. Okay, did we do this? We did this. Did we do this? We didn't really necessarily look at what are we trying to achieve. Maybe it doesn't include box 3 and 5, right? We could do away with that. So focusing on the task, the outcomes versus the task, I could not agree with you more. Absolutely. Yeah. So I really appreciate you spending a few minutes with us on this Friday. I hope you have a great weekend. And
thank you.
To our next combo.